who is the one who is eligible? In each scenario, who is the person who is eligible to claim such refund? These are the different topics that we are going to see. I would request Rajesh sir to do the welcome address and give brief touch upon the taxation principles.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Venu. Thank you, Shweta. Again, as Venu was mentioning, welcome you all for this one more session on one of the topics which touches the real estate sector. In fact, especially after the pandemic, many people were asking. Lot of bookings were cancelled or transferred. Lot of such transaction had happened, and the questions were being raised. What happens to the taxes already paid to the exchequer? There was no one straitjacket answer for it. There were differing view, different aspects were coming in. We are not getting into those aspects. Now, recently, government have realized the difficulties being faced by this sector and has come out with a mechanism wherein they said, don't worry, the people will not lose money. At the same time, the developers or the builders or the owners who are selling the property who has collected the tax need not also pay that out of their pocket. So finally, we will compensate for it through a mechanism of refund is what was told, and a lot of articles, WhatsApp messages were running in this regard. We thought it appropriate that we need to touch upon this, give a clear-cut clarity of what it is, whether it is something which is newly created or it was already existing, which is being enabled to be claimed. So in this context, fundamentally, I have to mention here, any taxes to be collected, it should flow, authority should flow from the Constitution. So it should, the law has to be framed through powers given by the Constitution. If there is no power to levy, any amount collected as tax, alleging that there is such levy, that amount cannot be kept by the person who has collected. I think somebody, okay. So basically, in other words, no taxes can be levied or collected without authority of a law. At the same time, any person who is not entitled to collect or keep any money cannot keep that money within himself. He has to give it back to the person who is really entitled for. In certain scenarios where such person is not identifiable or would not be able to be given, then there's also a mechanism where it should go to the common welfare fund, is something which is created in the indirect tax law. So coming to the aspect of refund under the GST refund provisions are contained in section 54 of the CGST Act, which is made equally applicable for the IGST Act as well, wherever they are referring to a refund. But if one carefully goes through, see through that provision, it does not say you are entitled for refund in this scenario. It doesn't say, except in case of a export related aspects or an inverted duty structure, the general aspect of a refund is not defined in the section, saying that if this happens, you'll be getting refund. If this happens, you will not be getting refund. It's not like that. It says any person who is entitled to claim refund. So when any person will be entitled to claim refund, if something which was not required to have been paid, but he has paid, then it becomes a amount for which he will be entitled to claim refund. So any person who is entitled to claim refund he can claim a refund. That's all it says. But what are all the things? He has paid, he can claim refund of tax, interest, or any other amount. Say late fee also is any other amount. Similarly, a fine is any other amount. It is not a tax or interest. So it is, as I was telling, we have to go with the general principle first, that why and how anything which we have paid to the government exchequer was not actually payable. So that has to be established as a primary ground. Then after having established, there are other things which follows, which is set out in this particular GST law. What it says is that any person claiming refund of tax, interest, or any other amount, which is paid by him, very important, paid by him, may make an application. It's not shall. It's your choice that if you want to leave it, it is your choice. If you want it, you can make a refund in such form and such manner. That means there will be a prescribed form and prescribed way in which you are supposed to make such refund application. The next part is very important. Any refund application has to be made within 2 years, 2 years from the relevant date. In the residual indirect tax of central excise, or for that matter service tax, the time limit was only 1 year from the relevant date, whereas in the GST, fortunately, we have been given 2 years from the relevant date. There is also, next slide, please.
Yeah. This is the next slide.
No, I think screen is the same slide it's showing.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Who can claim the refund, as I was mentioning? The question is, I am not the person who has paid the tax to the government exchequer, being an individual flat buyer in the example which we are taking. Not only that, there may be a situation where you would have received some services which was actually exempted services, but somebody has charged you GST. Same way you have purchased some goods on which actually tax rate is not what is being charged. Tax rate has been charged to you is higher than what is actually applicable. So in all this scenario, you have paid the tax to the supplier, who in turn has paid the tax to the government, being an indirect tax. In such a scenario, the question is whether the person who is receiving the goods or services, whether he can also claim such refund. In other words, whether the buyer or the recipient can also claim a refund. In the law, as I was mentioning, any person who has paid the tax, in other words, who has borne the incidence of tax or any other amount which was paid but not legally required to have been paid to government, is entitled to claim a refund. So it is not necessary that you should be a registered person to claim a refund as per the law. Effectively, you are the person who has ultimately, whose pocket is affected by the payment. If you are able to establish a nexus, then you can claim a refund. Either there are two scenarios. One, as I was mentioning, being a developer, he has paid the tax. If he has paid wrongly tax to government, but he has not collected the tax from the customers, then he will go ahead and claim a refund. On the other hand, you as a buyer, you are not paid the tax directly to the government, but you have paid the tax to the another person, like a developer or the supplier, who in turn has paid the tax to the government. You are the person who has actually borne the incidence of tax, so you can also go and claim a refund. However, more importantly, we need to know there is something called a indirect, this being indirect, something called unjust enrichment. What is this unjust enrichment? Let's take an example. I have sold a goods to Venu. Venu has sold the goods to you. Now I have actually charged a tax at 18% instead of 5%. After that, Venu also has charged the same tax of 12% from you instead of 5%. Now, later on, I realize that I have done a mistake. I will ask Venu, I have actually charged you extra tax. So what I will do is I'll return the money back to you. So for the differential 13%, I'll issue you a credit note. So as far as I am concerned, whatever the extra amount which I had collected from you, I have given you back. So therefore, am I entitled to claim that tax now as a refund from the government? The government says, or the concept says, no. Why? Because Venu has in turn already collected that amount from the further customers. So the incidence has further passed on. So if government gives me a refund, in this example, though I am not enriched, but Venu is enriched in between because he has collected the tax from the customers and he has also got a credit note from me. So there is a Supreme Court decision in Addison which says any person claiming refund has to establish a fact that he has not passed on the incidence of such tax to any other customer subsequently. So whether directly or indirectly, the important aspect is directly or indirectly. You need not show that you are collected as a tax. If you have not taken an input tax, you have added into the cost and collected from the customers already, then you cannot claim that from the government. So this is the concept of unjust enrichment, which you need to be aware of. Whether so you have actually borne, I use the word borne the incidence of tax, which means that you have not collected that amount from anybody else, whether directly or indirectly. And the second aspect is a concept of limitation. Law of limitation is very strong. If you have not claimed your entitlement within a period which has been set out by the statute, you are going to lose the entire benefit itself along with that. Though right exists, effectively you will lose the benefit because the time period for which you are going to claim a refund is already lapsed. If one has to carefully look into the definition of a relevant date given in section 54, to be more specific, I would like to refer to that clause which is specifically there in section 54 when in the explanation, clause G of that particular explanation 2, where it says, in the case of a person other than the supplier, the date of receipt of a goods or services are both by such person. So there's a specific clause which says that if the recipient is going to claim a refund, the relevant date should be from the date of receipt of goods or services, is what is defined in clause G. There was what I can say issue in this regard where I have received the services 3 years back when I booked the apartment, but I cancelled it today. So whether this clause G would be applicable or not was a big question mark which was there. Recent clarification has given a new life to all these type of refund applications by saying that time limit would start from the date of cancellation is a new life which is given for all this type of refund. That is why this aspect has cropped up. This discussion has cropped up and has given a new dimension for claiming of a refund in these scenarios. So I think this is what is a brief background and the legal proposition connected to the further discussion, I think, which Venu is going to give you the nitty-gritties of this entire issue, how it is to be claimed, what is the documentation, what is the procedure, all those aspects. And if there's anything, I am going to come in and add anything from the legal perspective. Venu, over to you.
Thank you, sir. And so the members, the crux of today's discussion is the unregistered buyers who have entered into the agreement with the builder for getting an apartment, and if they have paid the consideration towards the value of the supply and also the tax, if there is a cancellation that happens, even they will be getting the refund of the GST that has been paid. Okay. So let us look at the scenarios that are applicable. So the cancellation scenarios could be in multiple stages. There is a time limit which is already given, recognized by the law, and the cancellation that is happening, the time limit beyond the law. So let us understand all the procedures. Just to start with, a builder, when he is making a sale agreement to the customer, right? And let's say the booking of the apartment happened on 1st Jan 2019. For some reasons, the customer says, I want to cancel back the apartment. Now, the situations that we need to address or understand is point one, builder has not issued any invoice. He has not created a demand note. He's only received a token advance and did not even enter a sale agreement. Situation two, builder has issued the tax invoice, right? That is from builder perspective. A recipient perspective, which is the buyer would have cancelled on or before November of the next financial year. Now you might be wondering why this specific date. There is a provision in the law. Situation could be the cancellation could have happened after the next financial year November. So let us look at how the GST should be claimed back from the government upon this cancellation. See, nutshell, the supply did not happen. A nutshell, supply did not happen. The GST will arise. The concept of the GST will come up only if there is something called supply. In a crude layman language, if there is a sale happens. When there is no sale, there should not be any levy. Because there cannot be any levy, if the GST is already paid to the government, how do we collect it? Let's look at situation by situation. First situation, there is no tax invoice raised, only booking advance has been paid, and there was no sale agreement also entered with the customer. So if in the first situation, when there is no tax invoice, that means when I make a payment, customer will be issuing, the builder will be issuing me something called receipt voucher, a receipt voucher. So customer did not pay any GST to the government on my behalf or for my supply. He would have paid the taxation on advance, which he will be adjusting in the next supplies. If I am cancelling, he will be issuing me a payment voucher back. So, which is, he will be issuing me a refund voucher, sorry. He will be issuing me a refund voucher. So when I paid him, he gave me a receipt voucher. When I said that cancel it, he is giving me refund of the money I have paid. So first scenario, the customer did not enter into a sale agreement at all. In this scenario, the concept of credit note doesn't arise because the supply itself is not concluded. I would have only paid the booking advance. The next scenario is a tax invoice under GST has been issued. A tax invoice under GST has been issued, and a cancellation for that happened on or before 30th November of the next financial year. The cancellation would have happened on or before 30th November of the next financial year. How does that taxation works? First, let's understand this tax invoice. The supply under GST could be supply of goods, supply of service. A supply of service, in the case of a real estate, by virtue of Schedule 2 Entry 5, it is treated as service. Even though I'm doing construction of steel, cement and everything, I'm giving him the apartment and with the land, it is treated as the supply of service because I'm also providing the labor component. And under GST, any supply would be either supply of goods or supply of service. Is this supply happening in one go? Is like when am I getting the supply? The supply is like a continuous supply. From the time I am entering into an agreement till the registration and the handover of the possession which is happening to me. Because it is treated as a continuous supply, periodically the invoices should be raised. So the provision of the invoices basis your sale agreement. If the sale agreement says every quarter make some payment, if there is a due date given in the agreement, go by the due date. If there is no due date, let's say they have linked it to milestone. Upon completion of 5th floor, you will pay 25%. Upon completion of 10th floor, you will pay another 25%. Like that, on or before registration, 95%, on the registration date, 100%. Like that, if there are any milestones that are specified, there shall be a tax invoice that shall be raised by the builder on that date. So the liability for the builder to pay GST arise on that date. Lastly, if the invoice is not issued, even if there is a receipt that is coming, that should be treated as the time of supply. It could be earliest of all these scenarios, invoice date, receipt date, or those milestones that have been specified in the law. Now, if the builder is issuing the invoice, assuming the builder is issuing the invoice, and I am saying that for some reasons, either the project did not go well, or it did not complete on time, or I want to upgrade from one unit to other unit, like I didn't like in this project, or I have got relocated to a different place, could be any reason. I'm saying that please cancel my original sale agreement that I have done. So it is as good as sales made and the sales return. In case of a goods, it is pretty easy. You have supplied goods to me. I'm saying I don't want and I'm taking it back. You gave me, I'm returning it back. But in case of service, there is nothing like, okay, he gave me some service, I'm returning it back, right? This is construction unit and I said, okay, I do not want this construction. Now, the only scenario that is envisaged under GST for giving a sales return or credit note for service is deficiency in the service. Now, is there any deficiency in service? Let's say if the quality of the construction is poor, yes, there is a deficiency in service. But let's say I want to upgrade from 2 BHK to 3 BHK. I want to move from a project which is there in, say, Bangalore MG Road to a project which is going to be coming up in Chennai, or let's say in Bangalore, different apartment, different places. It could be different things. Even that is also credit note. Like how? Where is the service deficiency? The agreement to provide the service was to give the full unit. Since we are mutually agreeing to terminate the contract in early, to that extent there is a deficiency in the service. Service is not fully provided. Given that the service is not fully provided, the supplier has a right to issue a credit note. A right to issue a credit note. What does the credit note mean? Credit note means I am returning back the goods. Similar to that, I am returning back the service. So supplier is acknowledging that yes, I have not made the supply and I am taking back the service which I have taken. Now, difficult to like envisage that service is being returned, but a layman understanding, we are canceling the supply. The condition that is given in the law is the benefit can be taken not later than 30 days from the November of the next financial year. That means a credit note has to be issued on or before 30th November of the next financial year. If someone is filing an annual return, earlier to that. Okay. Now, the concept of the credit note will not be applicable if the incidence of the tax has been passed on. If I can put to play an example, if I have made a receipt to the builder and builder has collected from me 10 lakh rupees, and out of 10 lakh at the rate of 5% cumulatively, he has collected from me 50,000 rupees GST, 10,50,000 rupees I have paid to the builder. For some reason, when I am cancelling and asking the money to be refunded from the builder, if the builder is retaining that 50,000 and returning back the 10 lakhs, he cannot take unjust enrichment. He cannot issue a credit note, keeping the tax incidence is like the burden of the tax has been passed on. So the tax incidence has been passed on, and he cannot again get enriched by himself by making a credit note and asking government to pay back, because the time limit to issue the invoice is well within the time. I'm issuing the credit note to the customer, and I'm collecting 50,000 from the government, and 50,000 I'm not paying back to the customer. This unjust enrichment is not possible. That is what Rajesh sir has mentioned in the beginning. Now, in the scenario where the credit note can be raised, the government has given the time limit is section 34. This value has to be reported in GSTR1 on or before 30th November. After reporting it, the builder can adjust in his GSTR3. So on when he is making the payment for other supplies, he can reduce this money and say he will be adjusting the previous earlier paid dues towards it. All right. However, he has to do before filing of the annual return. Note, if the time limit has been passed on, then he cannot make the adjustment of the taxes on subsequent supplies. And unjust enrichment cannot be done. The question may come up that the concept of credit note is pretty simple to understand in goods, but services, the service deficiency, will this concept which has been explained by me, will the department agree? Again, there is a legal backing to it. The one of the FAQs which this department, the CBSE has released, when the new tax regime for the developers have been introduced from 1st April 2019, in the second part of the FAQ which they have released, for serial number 22, a question was put up that how do we compute adjustment of the credit note to be issued by a real estate developer in case an apartment was booked prior to April 2019 on which GST was paid on consideration received, but at the time of booking, and cancelled after April 2019. So they're envisaging that, okay, there is a cancellation that is coming because after the introduction of the new regime. There they have given an answer that the developer shall be entitled to issue a credit note in case if there is a change in the price, because the prices could have also got altered because of the lower rate of tax. There would have been renegotiation and the prices could have also reduced, or customer would have cancelled the booking. Okay, in both the cases, provided that the amount received in excess is refunded to the buyer. So if the excess amount is refunded to the buyer, then the credit note can be raised. So builder cannot keep the GST amount and not refunding. He cannot raise a credit note. If he has done that, so the developer shall be able to take adjustment of the tax paid in respect of the credit note. So that is what they have said with an example. So they have also given an example. They said, let's say a developer who has paid GST of 1,20,000, okay, and for a booking of 10 lakhs, he is entitled to take adjustment of this 1,20,000 if there is a cancellation of that booking after 1st April against any other GST liability, including the liability which is arising at 5% or 1%, provided that the entire amount is received from the buyer is refunded. So there is a legal backing to the aspect. Can a developer issue a credit note saying that this is a service deficiency upon cancellation of a unit? The answer is yes. So to sum up, in case if the cancellation is well within the specified time limit of the law, the builder has to raise a credit note, claim the GST back from the government, and give it back to the customer. Now let's look at the other situation. What's the situation? Situation is the tax invoice has been issued, the cancellation has been done after the 30th November of the financial year. The cancellation has been done after the 30th November of the financial year. Even here, there are multiple permutations that can come up. I have given you scenarios. Let's say an unit has been booked, okay, from a builder on 1st April 2018. I'm going back to the period 2018. And from that date, builder has been issuing invoices based on various milestones from April 2018 till March 21. For some reasons, I am a customer, I'm canceling the agreement. Okay, and the unit has been cancelled on 31st March 2021. If the unit has been cancelled 31st March 2021, can the builder issue a credit note? Now, builder has raised the invoices for the period 1819, 1920, 2021. For these 3 years, the builder has raised the invoice. The time limit to issue a credit note for the invoices that have been raised in these 3 periods is September 19, 20, and 21 accordingly. Only from the financial year 21-22 that has been changed to 30th November 22. All right. So if this is the time limit for raising the credit note, how do one claim a refund of the taxes? So in this scenario, since the cancellation of the unit has happened on March 21, builder cannot issue a credit note for the sales he has made, for the invoices he has raised between April 18 to March 20. Between April 18 to March 20, the invoices that are raised, builder cannot issue a credit note. So he can issue a credit note for what? Only for the period April 20 to March 21, a GST credit note can be issued. So what should one do for the GST that is paid to the government? For the first 2 periods, 18-19, customer has to claim the refund. 19-20, customer has to claim the refund from the government. For the financial year 2021, builder has to claim the refund from the government. So this is the kind of sum and substance of the new provision that has come. So let's look at what is the new provision that has come. There is an amendment to Rule 89, and the manner in which one claims the refund is given in Rule 89, where that has been amended. And the government has said that even, by the way, the refund generally as well was claimed only by registered person. As Rajesh sir in the opening note said, any person can claim the refund. Now, GST is a technology-based law. So the government said, given that any person can claim the refund. So they have issued a circular number 188. This circular has been issued after the amendment of the notification 22 of 2029 got amended. So in line of that, this circular was issued. So what does this circular say? It says the unregistered person has to obtain a temporary registration. Okay. The manner of the claiming of the refund, I'm just getting into the procedures. This is very important. One has to know how one has to claim the refund. Every customer, generally the customers are unregistered persons. These customers has to claim a refund firstly by obtaining a temporary registration on the GSTN portal. GSTN portal registration is a state-specific registration. Let's take an example. I'm here in the state of Karnataka, Bangalore. I have booked an apartment in Chennai, the state of Tamil Nadu. For some reasons, I have cancelled the unit. I'm an end customer. I am seeking a refund from the government. First, I have to go to the portal, make a refund application by taking a temporary registration. And the temporary registration, I have to select the state where the supplier is located. Here, the builder is in the Chennai, the state of Tamil Nadu. I have to first take the registration in the state of Tamil Nadu. I don't know why they have made this as a very state-specific law, because generally the concept which has been done, considering the real estate in the mind, because the place of supply for real estate is place where the construction is happening. Let that state bear the incidents and refund the money, but the cancellations can also come up in multiple scenarios. where if an insurance policy is terminated, some long-term contracts that got terminated. So I cannot, the place of supply, not all the times is where the location of the supplier. But here the law said the end customer has to take a registration in the place in which the supplier is there. After you taking the registration, there is an application called refund for unregistered person in RFD 01. That's the form. In that form, you have to make an application. Note, if there are 2-3 suppliers, like generally every builder has 2-3 entities, and each project he will do in a different entity. Like if I have booked for the same builder, but his 2 companies in 2 projects separately, I have made made a booking. If I'm canceling, I have to file 2 separate refund applications. Okay, and when should I file, or what time? The credit note has lapsed. So if you see in my previous example, we are saying that the refund can be filed in the situation 1 and situation 2, the time limit has been lapsed. So only in these 2 situations, I as an end customer can claim the refund. In the other situation, builder can claim because the time limit to issue the credit note has not lapsed. And the refund time is 2 years, which has been specified. 2 years from when I have been making the payment from 2018. Should that be 2 years from then? The answer is no. From the March 21, I have cancelled. 2 years from then is what I have to look at. It is March 23. This is what the another thing one should be mindful of. And the government doesn't entertain any refund if the value of the refund is less than 1,000 rupees. How do I do? On the portal, you log in. There is an application after you log in under the services, user services, where you can generate a user ID for unregistered application. You make an application as temporary ID for unregistered to claim refund. You select that and proceed, complete your registration process. Now, how simple it is, what documentation required, let's see that. So before you may, after registration is a pretty simple process because everyone does it. The complication in the registration process is sometimes the officers undue harassment where they don't issue the registration on time. So sometimes we have to bear with that, fight with the officer and say I am genuinely entitled for the registration. So the officers has this fear that okay, the registration taxpayer takes the registration and passes on the input tax credit and runs off. But today, the kind of mechanisms that are put in 2A, 2B, 3B and all, there cannot be a fly-by-night operators and passing on the credits, and Section 38 is stringent. Considering all this, I still don't know why there are a lot of harassments in various states where the registrations to be obtained. The bureaucracy at some point should actually be reduced whenever these online systems come up. Keeping those aside, once you obtain the registration and you go to the services for refund, make the refund application. What documents you should have for making the refund application? There is amendment, so they have introduced a clause KA where they are saying that please prepare a statement. What does the statement should contain? Invoice details. What, like invoice number, invoice date, invoice value, and along with the copy of those invoices. So most of you wouldn't have obtained it. It could have been in mail correspondence. Please check that. Next, the sale agreement copy which you have entered with the supplier. Then you have to obtain from the supplier two more sets, a letter and a certificate. You have to get a letter and a certificate. What is the letter and what is the certificate? See, the first two, this is what you are preparing and submitting. This is prepared by you and you are submitting. The second two are the builder documents. Two set of documents from you, 2 set of documents from the builder. Firstly, what is that letter? The letter will be, yes, there is a cancellation has happened and for this unit. See, it cannot be like a suo moto, because there is the real estate actually contributes to 7% of the Indian the GDP. So again, each tax officer cannot get into genuinity of all the applications from the prima, at least if the prima facie evidence is collected. So they're asking, you are making a declaration that yes, I have cancelled, but who knows, you might be living in that thing. So they say, go get a letter from the supplier also that yes, there is a cancellation or termination of the agreement has happened. And he should also give you, I am making a claim that look, these are the tax invoices. Maybe I wouldn't even have paid for those tax invoices. The next thing is, these are the details I have received from the person against this cancellation and the proof of that. Okay. Very important, a certificate this builder has to give. What does certificate builder has to give? He should give against these tax invoices which I have issued, on which the refund is claimed by the applicant, I have not adjusted the against any of the tax liability by issuing the credit note. A, I did not issue the credit note. B, I have not claimed any refund of that. C, I will also not claim any refund of this in the future, because on the same amount, two people cannot claim the refund. Either the customer or the builder can claim. So the customer submit his sale agreement, his payment invoice copies. He also get a declaration by way of letter and a certificate. Please note, these are two different documents. The certificate is to ensuring that the unjust enrichment is not happening. Letter is to confirm whatever the statements which are being made. All these documents have to be complied, and there is a form given. So rule 89, there is a kind of the statement. You can enter it online. There is an Excel utility. If you have lot of data that to be filled, you will fill these details and you make a submission onto the common portal. Once the submission is made, once the refund application has been filed, the proper officer will verify the claim. There is a manner in which the verification has been given. And if the documentation is complete and he is satisfied himself, he will issue the refund in form called RFD06. My application number is called RFD01. His sanction order is RFD06. In between the other forms, don't worry in case if there is any discrepancy, other information. But the form you will be submitting is RFD01. The form, the order that you will be getting, the refund sanction order is RFD06. Within what period? Within 60 days upon the satisfactory assessment which is done by the proper officer. Within 60 days, who will be the proper officer? You don't need to know. System will allocate this. Now, a caution or an intimation which I also want to bring it here. See, during the period of COVID, owing to the pandemic, there are a lot of things that could be done, could not have been done, all those things. So government also has given a relaxation. The government has given a relaxation between 1st March 22 to 28th February 2022. So between these periods, if something is falling due, let's say something expires on 2nd March 20, the government said, read the expiry date as 28th February plus 1 day. So the period of expiry has been this 2 years in between, kind of 2 years has been removed. So the relevant date for claiming the refund is cancellation date plus 2 years. The relevant date for claiming the refund is cancellation date plus 2 years. In this between this period, if you have between March 20 to February 20, even that benefit you can take. Like technically, if I have to stand today and say, you will get additional 2 years. So someone who has a refund claim before March 20, because we are already in 23, can I make a claim? Excluding these two periods, you will still get the claim of the refund of that, in my view. Lastly, a key points if I have to say, which you have to look at the practical challenges is awareness. Now, customers knowing, because most of the people would have filed a complaint in RERA. Most of the people are still seeking a cancellation request. Now, builder would have said, see, I will cancel this, you forgo GST. The customers would have said that you give me a full, only then I will accept. And they have filed with the RERA authorities. Earlier, RERA authorities were confused whether the customers can claim a refund. They have ordered builder to pay refund in some cases. Some cases they have said customers to go get the refund. When customers approached the GST officer said, I don't know, there is no mechanism, you will not get the refund. And getting refund from department is like as if they feel that you are enriched. But the point is the supply did not happen. The GST which I have paid is not as against the supply, so you are genuinely eligible for this. To put rest to all these problems, the new circular has come. So the education and awareness of to all the customers are required. I think the builders, suo moto, in their interest to bring the goodwill gesture, should educate to the customers that this procedure is there. Point two is, it is, as I am speaking, it's pretty simple, but it might not be easy, or the customers are educated enough to do this process by themselves. Maybe again extending that goodwill gestures. Every builder has an association for the chartered accountants with him. So you taking their assistant, he can also further complete this process of making the registration and application, because registration has to be made in the concerned state of the supplier. If I'm here in Bangalore, I'm not making a registration for Bangalore. I'll be making registration in Chennai because my unit booked was in Chennai. And the refund has to be done in a timely manner. Refund has to be done in a timely manner. And it also has to be done only for those invoices where credit note could have not been issued. So builder should also cooperate and segregate. For these invoices, yes, I am eligible to issue the credit note. I will adjust myself and give you the GST amount. For these invoices, I will not be entitled to issue a credit note. You have to make the payment, because see, between two parties, the party who is more knowledgeable has to also move forward a step to ensure the transaction is concluded smoothly. Today, how the goodwill of the other person is also very important, because cancellation doesn't really happen owing to the poor construction. I will never say that the builders have this intention of poor construction. There could be scenarios have changed. My need has changed from 2 BHK to 3 BHK. My need has changed living in MG Road, but I have to now move to Whitefield owing to the job. My need has changed. I was happily working in Google, Amazon, and overnight I've got a pink slip and I don't see visibility to pay the EMIs. So I'm intending to cancel. My need has changed. I wanted to live in an apartment, but now owing to family, COVID and other situations, I'm migrating to a different place. Anything could have happened, right? So when a cancellation is happening, it doesn't mean that there is a default by one party or other party. It is a mutual consent. So it is in good interest, in good terms. Generally, most of the times when cancellation happens, anticipating that money will not come, so people try to become harsh. They get into lawyers and who try to use this very harsh words and get the relationship strained. When the relationship strained, this is the problem that will happen to complete the documentation. Obtaining a letter from the builder, obtaining the certificate from the builder. Please note, you have to make the refund application within the 2 years. You can't make an application, say, when I get the details from the builder, I will fill the rest of information. Till that point, please consider this as application and process a temporary refund, nothing like that. You collect all the documents, only then you can apply. So practical challenge, getting this letter and the certificate from the builder, and also the invoice copies. This is hardly respected and kept. Because like today, everything has been electronic world. A message comes on WhatsApp and email, something comes on email, you act on it. More wouldn't have got saved. Sometimes builders print it, sign it and give, sometimes send it electronically. Make sure that it is taken care of. Also, if let's say the credit note time limit has expired and the builder is not giving you the credit notes, so he says, you please apply the refund. but you want to make his life trouble, went to RERA, everyone. Out of 10 lakh 50,000 rupees, you made an attempt to collect some 20,000 rupees from builder, made a mutual settlement out of 50,000 loss. 20,000 builder will pay, 30,000 he will figure out. After making that attempt, you cannot now again make an attempt that, look, the credit note time limit has lapsed, so you pay me 50,000 back to the customer. Neither the unjust enrichment is permitted to the builder nor to the end customer. So if the part taxes are refunded, you have to make a separate computation saying that, see, I'm entitled for 50,000, but I have already collected 20,000 from the builder. So please sanction me a refund of 30,000 rupees. You got to be very transparent in preparing the document and filing these documents with the proper officer. Friends, these are the various points one should be aware of. And we will now move to any questions that you have. But before taking the questions, I would request Rajesh sir, if there are anything that has to be added that I have missed, please do share.
Nothing specific. In fact, you have dealt the each of the issues very minutely, covering different perspective to the participants. I think I should thank you for that. At the same time, out of the past experience, I would like to share similar issues came up in the service tax regime also. In service tax regime also, a lot of people did claim a refund. The buyers of the flat, the service tax paid, and some of them were able to successfully get a refund claim, and some of them are still pending before the tribunal because there was no clarity which was given at that time, like what is being given presently. Probably in those cases where the applications are filed and still pending, they can use this clarification to that effect. One. Two, when the entire process or procedure come out to be like available for an unregistered person. I want to ask you a question. Maybe you would have thought of it. Say, I am a chartered accountant. I am registered in my individual capacity. Now I have booked a flat. Now I have cancelled the flat. Now I am entitled for refund, assume that as per this circular. So should I take one more temporary registration, or can I go and claim that refund in my existing registration application itself? I mean, registration number itself.
Sir, I would put it this way. If I am also, if I have given this number to the builder, and in the builder he is showing in those invoices my registration number, I should make an attempt to, instead of making a new registration, I should make an attempt to make a refund claim because I already have an existing registration. So the intention is to only to get the refund. Maybe this is a practical thing. If the officer says, no, again, you make a new application, wouldn't, because end of the day, officer wants to track it online. So he should be processing the refund in the existing registration, in my view.
No, I think my suggestion would be, if you have a registration, leave that separate, because that is in your business capacity, business scenario. You would have not given the invoice, I mean, GST number of your personal account for the billing, etc. In your individual, irrespective of this, you go ahead and claim. I was more worried for the same registration, I mean, same PAN number. Will I be, I mean, will it also give me this temporary registration? Technically, I'm asking more.
Yeah, it will give the additional number. I have made one attempt. So I have actually two temporary registration. So one for e-way bill and for one other purpose. So it will give the second differently generated 1Z and 2Z.
Yeah. So I think better, my suggestion would be, though you have your registration for other businesses, don't try to mix up that with this. Better go for a separate process itself, has been suggested by rules, so that you don't get mixed up with the other thing, is my suggestion. probably
Yeah,
you can
and
add
also
something.
take the assistance of a chartered accountant or someone who knows this subject.
Yeah. And next thing is, I think you
Sir, one more
effectively.
point. There was one which came to the chat. The people asked that my contract was booked in 2015. So they have paid some service tax. Will this be covered in that is what that came up. So I think we should also say that this is applicable only for GST credits.
No, I think Venu, I would try to say. In fact, there's a High Court decision. I have forgotten. Chalet total, if I'm not wrong, where the date of cancellation will become a relevant date for counting this thing. So even for the service tax, if somebody has paid and the project is still not completed and it is cancelled now, probably you can make an attempt to claim even the service tax portion also now and try, because the same analogy should apply.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Very well. Making an attempt is definitely required. Okay. But yeah, I have my own doubts. But yes, Rajesh sir, being in the litigation practice, I saw there are various matters he has fought for the taxpayers. Taxpayers should make an attempt.
Yeah, I think one more aspect, Venu, you did explain giving a table uh, that, the time limit, March 21, September 20 credit note. Okay. So since there was no clarity, neither I have issued a credit note, nor I have returned the money to the buyer. I'm still, I told that I already paid to government. So I cannot issue credit because my auditor has not adjusted the by issuing credit note, because as you were rightly saying, it cannot be considered as return of service. So I've already provided a service. So all those arguments were there in that trade effectively.
Correct.
So they would have not issued a credit note. I want you to clarify, though I was entitled to issue credit note at that point time of cancellation, but as on date, if I have not issued such credit note, can a buyer go and claim the refund now? That is one more point.
Yeah. So again, this is a very valid scenario in that example of March 21 and April 18. There was a right for the builder to issue the credit notes and adjust it. For some reason, because even this clarification by TRU came only later, all those things, for some reason, the supplier has not issued the credit note. See, if the supplier has not issued the credit note, then he could have issued, but he has not issued then. See, the circular is using the word now, if the supplier can issue a credit note. Standing today, the supplier cannot issue the credit note. Hence, we can take this position that the customer is fully entitled for the refund of all the monies that the supplier has paid to the government, including those where the supplier at that point could have issued the credit note, which he did not issue the credit note. So this is again is a mutual discussion which they have to have. So that is where the supplier, his attorney or his CA, financial consultant, and they receive both the builder and the customer. They should be having these discussions with an open mind and try to accommodate all the scenarios, because both have to permit. So now the supplier has to give a letter saying that the credit notes have not been issued and cannot be issued. That is also a wordings that have been issued in the circular. So an attempt can be made, and in my view, since the supplier has not issued the credit notes, then now he cannot make an issue of the credit notes. The customer can claim full refund of those taxes.
When one more thing, it is more of a technical side, which how the department officer would look at it.
Yeah.
Say you as a developer has not actually paid a cash to government. I paid you a cash, you paid a tax utilizing credit.
Correct.
So there were some amendment changes in the law. Whenever that anybody claiming refund, if that has been paid by cash, it has been refunded in cash. If it has been paid through credit, it has been refunded through credit. But what happens in this scenario where the recipient is claiming refund? I hope that this should not come in a way, and this should not come as a objection point. So I'm just bringing out the fact that as far as the recipient is concerned, he has paid in cash, so he should be given a refund. So that's one more point.
In fact, this question was asked by one of the participants. It came into the chat. I think one.
I only put it for you.
No, one other CA has
Okay.
put it that yes, Anusha. So where she was asked that the officer has rejected saying that the supplier, the builder did not pay the taxes in cash. But the point is, in the earlier regime where there was 12% effective rate, the point is that input credit was eligible. So I, as an end customer, when I have paid to the builder has paid it to his supplier in cash. Everything happened in cash. Only that cash has been brought in as a credit note. So proper officer has no right to say that because the builder did not pay it in cash, I cannot give. It is like you are converting the credit into the cash. I think it is defeating the purpose of the law. So we should be very straight to the officer. No, he has to process the refund. I think we should say that.
Venu, one more question. I think it has come to me directly.
Yeah.
The thing is, a developer is asking, as a practice, whenever the advances are received or the installment is received, we only issue a advance receipt. We don't issue a tax invoice. So in that scenario, who is entitled to claim a refund is the question.
Sir, again, there are some practices which are being done by the developers are also wrong. First practice, the issue of the advance, which is receipt voucher, is only applicable till the point where it's like I've given a booking form and collected some token money for till the time the buyer makes a decision whether he will go ahead or not. But once he enters into a sale agreement, that means the builder has agreed to make a supply. So section 7 kicks in. So the agreement to supply would kick in. So the advance receipt has to convert into tax invoice, of course, in those installments, and the time of supply would come in. So builder concept of advance receipt is only till the sale agreement is made. So after the sale agreement is what we have discussed. But before the sale agreement, if there is a cancellation which is happening, it is kind of transaction in money. So you blocked something towards taking a decision and you are returning it back. So you will be returning it back. I don't think the circular or anything is required, and you will be making an adjustment towards the future supplies. The concept of credit note also will not come. What do you say, sir?
Yeah, I think that should be fine. Essentially, in other words, in all these cases, when if we, irrespective of whether it's called as advance receipt or not, the element of that particular amount collected by the developer from the customer includes GST, then obviously the refund has to be claimed by the recipient, irrespective of whatever you call.
Correct.
That invoice or advance receipt may be relevant in the context of credit note in the section 34, but would not be relevant to decide who has to claim refund. Who has to claim a refund is who has borne the incidents. That is what is my thing. Whether if the price says it is tax will be borne by me, if it is clear, then I have to claim. If the tax is to be borne by the customer, then he has to claim a refund. So absolutely, the advance receipt or invoice has no relevance for the as to the question who has to claim. It will be relevant whether credit note can be issued or not.
Correct. So in my view, credit note concept will not come for the receipt vouchers.
Yes, that's exactly.
Yeah. And there's one other question that has come up where if there are multiple apartment purchased, should there be 2 temporary registrations required? So the point one has to be only remembering is 1 temporary registration for the state. In the state, you have made 2-3 separate procurement for against each separate supplier, separate refund application. The refund application will be separate, which is supplier specific. Registration is the state specific. if husband and wife are both are buyers of the agreement. So, yeah, so a couple of things, practical things definitely would come up. And thankfully, I did not get a refund application to date for filing husband and wife. But in my view, again, when the agreement has been entered between both the husband and wife, we also have to look at how the payments are going. Are they raising two separate tax invoices or single tax invoice? Is the both husband and supplier are contributing the money towards from their account separately? I think we got to look at the other aspects also and to conclude. And please note, in GST law, do not think that for every question there would be a Boolean answer, yes and a no. With a slight change in the fact, the answer will also become changed. Maybe taxable, not taxable, exempt, not exempt, whether this rate applicable, that's everything could change. Even this would also be there is, I don't see a challenge in claiming the refund, but based considering the facts and the circumstances, it could be one application or also could be two applications.
Practically, I would suggest that let both of them take a registration.
Absolutely.
Both of them apply for the full amount and let them go together and let the officer decide, okay, that, whom to give, whom not to give, or say 50-50% are together. Because if you do other way, the officer says you should have done the other way.
That's the biggest problem in our bureaucracy. They want to find a reason for an individual to visit to their premises and also find a reason to say why I will not give you the refund in a genuine transactions.
Yeah, in fact, the reason they can surely bring in a fact that both are joint owners, all those things, but let the application for a procedural aspect.
Absolutely. I think what Sir is mentioning is very correct. I think the application should be made with the full documentation, because invoice is one, payments are could be one. So both make an application and this declaration can be given saying that both the parties have applied this. So the officer can choose pay 50-50, pay in my account, pay in their account. They can do the assessment in our. Bringing up the facts is the responsibility of the taxpayer, and let them do that. That's it.
Any other question?
How can we track the refund applications? So there is a mechanism to track the refund application. For a normal customers, it is definitely little cumbersome. I would request you to engage your chartered accountant who will happily assist you in getting this documentation done in a right way. Now, GST is also compliance based law. If you complete the way it is meant, it is to be done, it is pretty easy. Even if small errors that happen, the cost of non-compliance is very high. And those, please remember 2 years timeline. So if the application is getting rejected, as good as you have not filed, again, when you are making a fresh application, the 2 years will be looked at on the date of application. This is another caution you need to be mindful of. Ramesh Babu is asking how long it will take to get the refund. So 60 days is what the officers have been asked to process the refund. Within 60 days, the officer has to complete the refund process. All right, so these questions, I think we have answered everything. And also I should again thank RERA consultants for bringing small topics rather than taking a huge subject every month. We do only one topic for 1 hour. It is good knowledging. And Rajesh sir, thank you for bringing the legal aspects to it. Yes, sir.
I think one thing probably, in the interest of goodwill, as well as from the perspective of the developers who are there, should in fact write the communication of this and enable them voluntarily or be prepared as a one-time mechanism, or in fact facilitate the people who have cancelled or altered applicate them to enable them to file, so that as a instead of people doing errors, mistakes, they can ensure that they have been taken care of. There's one suggestion to that effect.
Correct, sir. Agree. True, very true.
Thank you, Venu. Thank you, Shweta. Over to you.
Thank you, Venu sir, and thank you, Vinay sir, for presenting, for, sharing us in-depth knowledge on refund of GST and consult department units, and, just covering all the, like areas. So today's session anyhow was very interactive, and still I'm getting the, like the request for attending the session, and back to back few of our registrants, they, thanked us for presenting the session, and few queries I have got where like registrants are requesting for sharing the PPT. So here I would like to tell that we will upload this video on our official YouTube channel, that is RERA Consultants LLP. So there you can subscribe to our channel and you can watch this session recording as well as our other previous recordings as well. As of now, thank you so much, Venu sir, and thank you, Rajesh sir, for presenting this session. And we'll meet with another topic very soon. Till then, please take care. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, and thank you, everyone.